Production funding for Flying Squirrels Insider is made possible in part by
811 is the number to call before you dig. 811 will help avoid fines, knocking out utility service, even injury. So call 811 before you dig.
and James Limousine, driven to serve Richmond for 22 years. JamesLimousine.com, 804-273-1540.
Pitch to Duffy, driven to deep right center field. He'll pull into third with a triple. Flashed into left field. Duffy's got it. The shovel to Tomlinson. Relay on to first and Pisa. Swung on and missed. Speared by Blackburn. Parker galloping in. Will slide and make the catch.
Hello again and welcome back into Flying Squirrels Insider. I'm your host, Jay Burnham. Coming up on the show, we bring in Wes McElroy as him and I dissect the Flying Squirrels potential postseason player awards. And we'll also go into what it means to be a Latino player here in the United States with our correspondent, Edwin Rodriguez. But before we get to all that, we'd like to welcome back in our community partner, Utility Buddy, from the City of Richmond Department of Public Utilities. Utility Buddy is instrumental in conveying safety messages about natural gas, stormwater drainage, and calling 811 before you dig. For more information, visit richmondgov.com/DPU or call 646-7000. DPU is here for you. As always, if you want to win free stuff, this is your final chance. Text FSI to 63975. Mobile marketing services provided by Opt-in Technology. All right, with all that said, I'd like to bring back in Wes McElroy. And Wes, before we get to the players and what they've done for the Flying Squirrels, I want to get to some guys that used to play for the Flying Squirrels and the contributions they're making at the big league level. How about the performance of 2014 Flying Squirrels MVP Matt Duffy at the big league level?
I think you hit the word right on the head, contribution. How about the season that Duffman is having? Here's a guy, I remember last year, Party and I getting together just to watch his call-up because we went to Hurley's Tavern and established at Party and I frequent.
Yes, indeed.
Just because we could see the game and we wanted to see the moment. We didn't know the moment would turn into this good of a season. Matt Duffy's got all the tools to play in the big leagues. But to play at this level, what he's doing right now, I mean, I think you can argue clear that he's the front runner for National League Rookie of the Year. You've got Kyle Schwarber in there. Jock Peterson's been sat down in L.A. He's out of the starting lineup. And let's not forget about Mr. Bryan out there in Chicago as well. But look at some of the numbers that he's putting up here. 111 games, batting .308. And you look back, May, June, 316, July, 323. The hardest thing to do in baseball is be consistent. Right. And Matt Duffy's doing it.
And keep in mind, he didn't start the season in the lineup for the San Francisco Giants. Now he's batting third for San Francisco. I think if he doesn't win Rookie of the Year, you could argue that he's the most valuable rookie in pertaining to the success of their team.
And he may be the most valuable San Francisco Giant because they've had a lot of injuries. Their pitching has not been sharp throughout the lineup. He's one big reason why they're still in the running for the National League West.
And speaking of injuries, former Flying Squirrel Joe Panik has been out a bit. Filling in for Panik, however, is the Flying Squirrels starting shortstop this year. When camp broke for the Flying Squirrels, it was Kelby Tomlinson. Now he's back up in the big leagues.
I think if you take Kelby Tomlinson and Matt Duffy, I think it's a testament to what you're seeing here from the Giants organization and how they're grooming their prospects and the fun of seeing guys at the AA level. But Kelby Tomlinson, you're right. Here's a guy, Joe Panik stepped in. Joe Panik had to step out. There's a lot of talk about them possibly going after Chase Utley. Kelby Tomlinson comes in, and just from reading some of the accounts and some of the reports and some of the thoughts, not only of Madison Bumgarner, but Bruce Bochy, they said that Kelby Tomlinson reminds them a lot of a young Matt Duffy. But they said there's that swing. There's not that pop with the bat, but there's that consistent swing that you're seeing from Tomlinson. And he's another guy where they didn't get Chase Utley. He goes to L.A. Panik, you don't know how long he's down for. And he's helping keep the Giants in the hunt.
And you think as though Tomlinson might be that utility guy going forward. That was the role that they had envisioned for Matt Duffy, by the way, last year. Now he's one of their best players in that lineup. So Tomlinson up, Panik and Duffy lead amongst the league leaders in batting average. My question to you is, who's next for the Flying Squirrels?
Probably looking at this team, 40-man, Yohan Gregoria. I mean, you're talking about a guy who 6'7", 180 pounds. You look at the innings that he's given. And here's the thing with Gregoria. You know, if you're the Giants right now and you're kind of looking at the big picture in September, here's a guy who can come in, he can give you a third of an inning.
Right.
He could also give you 4 innings. He could also probably give you 6 innings if need be in long relief. So probably the next guy up, if they're looking big picture, they're looking at September where they are a meaningful team, I'd say Gregoria.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him get the call up when rosters expand. As you mentioned, he can be a flex guy. He started the season in the Flying Squirrels bullpen. He had been a starter in the past and now has been stretched out back to that starting role. So he certainly has been able to improve over the course of the season in both roles.
You know, and how fun is this? You get to turn on ESPN in the month of September. And I know if you go to the Diamond, you guys do a great job of putting the posters up with the guys who have been called to the show. But right now, you look at the Squirrels in the past 3 years, you look at the Giants, you look at this organization, you flip on ESPN for a big Monday or a big Wednesday game, and you can just go right through the Giants, squirrel. It's exciting to be in Richmond to see these guys not only be here and be there, but to grow.
Yeah, how about 19 home runs for Brandon Crawford? He might be the best National League shortstop out there.
Yep.
So for the Flying Squirrels, they'll hopefully have a little bit more baseball to play past the first week of September as they are in a playoff push, still 5 games out of a playoff spot. But Wes, I wanted to break down some of the 2015 postseason awards that we're going to hand out at the last homestand for the Flying Squirrels. Let's start with Pitcher of the Year. This is going to be a tough one. You got 2 big candidates, Joe Biagini versus Kelvin Marte. My question to you, who you got?
I'm glad I'm not the guy who's got to call it in the last homestand, because right now it may take the last homestand to decide between the two. I think you have to go with Kelvin Marte, and I may be a creature of the moment because after we film this, or the day after we're filming, or the day before we're filming this, Marte goes out against Lucas Giolito of the Harrisburg Senators, one of the top Nationals prospects, and he outshined him. Yeah. He goes 8 innings, 9 strikeouts, allows 4 hits. He was superb. But let's not also take away from what Joe Biagini did this year. And Joe Biagini, these guys almost equal in numbers, almost equal in innings pitched. But I think back to May where Joe Biagini really helped keep the Squirrels afloat, and how many more wins he would have had in April if this team didn't get off to the funk that they did. So it's going to be tough to call. I'd have to side with Marte, but take nothing away from Biagini.
I think the performance that you're referring to against Giolito, which was a very exciting environment at the Diamond in front of over 7,000 fans on Tuesday, you have to give the edge to Marte. He picked up his 10th win, but Biagini had his 10th win snaked away from him on Monday of that series. He had a 3-1 lead going into the 9th inning. The bullpen could not hold it. So speaking of bullpen members for the Flying Squirrels, most valuable reliever, you've got a couple of options there, a familiar face in Phil McCormick, but Tyler Mazenko in his first year at AA has been solid from start to finish.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to go with Mazenko, especially it being his first year, looking at what he's done. I mean, you just look at the numbers here, 46 2/3 of innings, 1.74 ERA. I mean, really, he's allowed 2 earned runs in his past 12 outings. He's gotten better. He's stayed consistent. And here's a clear example of a guy getting the call up, learning, but then applying what he's learned. And no, you know, he's stayed at AA all year, but to get that call up in 1 year, to progressively go through the season and have better numbers, I've got to give it to Mazenko.
And when you're projecting down the line, obviously Mazenko is more of a back end of the bullpen type of pitcher. But Phil McCormick situationally has been phenomenal for the Flying Squirrels. For the past 3 seasons, he has been amongst the league leaders in appearances. He's doing it again. I think he is finishing as strong as he ever has, and has already authored 8 consecutive scoreless innings after giving up some runs at the end of July. So Mazenko versus McCormick. Since McCormick helps us out here a lot on FSI with some of our skits, maybe we'll give the nod to him, but we shall see.
Edge,
yeah, okay. But Mazenko also a guest here this year as well. So how about the big one, Wes? We talk about the Squirrels having such a topsy-turvy season. They had lost 15 consecutive games back in May. We all know that. They're now back to about 500, still in the mix a little bit. Who's been the most valuable player that has been a part of this team since the beginning that you might be able to dole out an award to?
I think it's between Rando Moreno and Mitch Delfino. You know, you're talking about the left side of the infield, and those two guys. Here's another case. Good luck. Last homestand, right down to the numbers. Moreno's got him in batting average, but the numbers are so close between the two. I would have to edge a little bit, Jay, to Moreno, just for not only the amount of hits, but some of those clutch moments. He's come up big, especially when this team was scrapping for offense. He's kind of been a timely spark for this group.
I think you could also make the case for Ricky Oropesa, by the way, amongst one of the league leaders in runs batted in, over 60 RBIs for Ricky. He's been that thumper in the middle of the lineup. So him, and I think some of the players and some of the fans might also say Miles Schroeder, who's not finishing as strong as he would have hoped. But when Schroeder joined the team, if you remember, that's when this team started to turn things around.
True.
So for the Flying Squirrels, it should be interesting. But I believe my vote will go to Randall Moreno because he has been that spark plug for the Flying Squirrels. When they injected him into the lineup along with Schroeder coming back, that's when this team started to coalesce. All right, Wes, with that said, does this team have a shot at making the playoffs? I know it's tough. You want to believe, and manager Jose Aguasil is a believer.
We've seen goofier things at the end of baseball seasons, but we're sitting here this morning, and they're 5 games back of a wild card with, 12 games left to play?
13, yeah.
I'm going to do the fuzzy math. I don't see it as a possibility. Crazier things have happened, but if you can take a moment and reflect that where they are, that this is actually still a possibility in the final week of August, considering what this team was, where they stood in late April, early May, that shows how much Jose Aguasil has kept this team together, how they didn't let it get out of hand, and how they flipped it around to the point where they're in wild card contention. Scorecard for Jose Aguasil, or rather report card, I should say, for Jose Aguasil in his first season at the helm of the Flying Squirrels. I'm going to go B+. Yeah. I mean, I think he's done a fantastic job of, look at the big names. We mentioned Duffy leaving last year, but Kelby Tomlinson, minor league baseball, not only are you dealing with wins and losses, but you're dealing with adjustments to players. You're teaching them. You don't get the full innings count. You can't say, hey, well, we're going to keep this guy here for 7 innings. He looks good. It's not the way that it works. You're working on an educational basis, and this team has gotten better, and the players have gotten better. The new additions have gotten better. I feel if the Squirrels had just a couple of more victories, he might be the manager of the year in the Eastern League. It's a fair point. Yeah, it's tough. You can always look, especially if a team has been here to here from one season to the next. It's impressive what they've done in one season. Just still going to be a little bit on the outside looking in. Our James Limousine Luxury Guest of the Week is Todd Parney-Parnell, Vice President, COO, a report card on his pants that he's been wearing this year. Oh, first of all, to find the pants, yes. That's effort. That's an E for effort. To wear the pants, that's a B for bravery. And it's Parn, so I'm just going to give him an A. All right, thanks. Because no one else can pull that off. It's been fun, man. Thanks. Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it, buddy. All right, more to come here on Flying Squirrels Insider. As mentioned, our James Limousine Luxury Guest of the Week, Todd Parney-Parnell. But how about this? We go behind the scenes with our correspondent, Edwin Rodriguez, to find out what it's like life in the United States after coming from Latin America. The Squirrels have their fair share of Latino players, and we're going to find out what it has been like for them here in 2015. All to come here on Flying Squirrels Insider.
In 2015, about 30% of Major League Baseball players were Latino. On the Flying Squirrels, 11 out of our 29 players were born in Latin countries, yet we rarely hear from them. I sat down with a couple of our players and our manager to hear their stories of reaching the minor leagues and the difficulties they had to overcome. Moving between countries is hard enough, but learning a new language can make it all more challenging.
Era un challenge bien difícil para mí. Me recuerdo que al segundo día fui al centro comercial y fui a una librería a comprar un diccionario. Y todos los días trataba de agarrar una palabra y iba al estadio y se la trataba de decir a los americanos para ver si lo estaba diciendo bien.
Solamente llegué y preocuparme por aprender el idioma, que eso es lo más importante, y jugar, hacer lo que uno sabía hacer, jugar.
Having a bilingual manager in the clubhouse takes some pressure off the players, knowing that they can freely communicate with him.
Mucho mejor, más cómodo y más, tú sabes, como más nos sentimos con más confianza para hablar y para expresarnos para todo.
Sí, es mucho, te sientes mucho más cómodo al tener una persona, un coach que hable español, porque obviamente te puedes comunicar mucho mejor que él, no tienes que utilizar a ninguna persona de por medio al momento de tú conversar con él o al momento de tú tener una conversación en privado con él.
Bueno, yo creo que siempre que tú tienes un coach latino, te sientes un poco más cómodo porque a la hora que tengas un problema tienes el soporte y eso. Aunque hay a veces cuando yo hago los meetings, lo hago nada más en inglés, de manera que ellos también aprendan. Porque yo pasé por esa dificultad y, ¿sabes? Ellos tienen el soporte que después que yo haga un meeting pueden venir a mi oficina y yo les puedo aclarar y puedo tomar el tiempo individual con cualquiera de los peloteros que estén aquí.
It's safe to say these guys are happy to be in Richmond.
Nos llevamos bien, pero también se habla un poco de inglés y me llevo bien con todo el mundo, con buen compañero, sí, con todo. Igual todo, americano y latino, todo igual.
De verdad que es una organización, un equipo que sabe tratar mucho, sabe tratar muy bien a lo que es sus peloteros, su staff. Tienen un buen equipo de trabajo. De verdad nos mantienen siempre contentos y de verdad no tanto a nosotros sino también a la fanaticada del equipo. Y de verdad que Richmond tiene un sabor de béisbol muy bueno.
No, mira, muy contento de tenemos 11 peloteros latinos en el equipo y de verdad que me siento orgulloso que estén aquí y trabajamos duro para que estos peloteros puedan alcanzar sus sueños y por eso es que estamos todos los días aquí temprano para trabajar fuerte e inteligentemente para poder salir adelante y no es fácil llegar todos a Grandes Ligas y la realidad no es que todos van a llegar, pero con la lucha, tarde o temprano, cosas buenas pasan.
Hello again and welcome back to Flying Squirrels Insider. It's time for our James Limousine Luxury Guest of the Week, and we brought in our own Vice President and COO, General Manager as well, the big man, Todd Parnell. Parn, thanks for being here.
Jay, you look marvelous. Your hair is spectacular today.
Well, I appreciate that. At the end of the season, it's hard to stay in such good shape. I'm glad you brought the two things I asked you to bring today, your pants and your championship ring. Which one do you like better?
Well, I have more pair of pants. I only have 3 of these World Series rings, which, by the way, sounds obnoxious just saying it like that, doesn't it? Yeah. I only have 3 World Series rings, but this is the 2014 from the San Francisco Giants, and hopefully we'll get a Richmond Flying Squirrels Eastern League ring one of these days. I don't know if it's going to be this year or not. That story remains to be told, but all in all, I think it's been a wonderfully fun and productive year.
Before I get into all that, you mentioned the 2014 championship, and Wes and I were just talking about some of the players that have contributed at the big league level and are still contributing. What's your relationship like with the players as they come through this level, and what kind of lasting impression do you want to leave on them?
Well, every year, and you've been there, every year when we have the players get to town the very first day, we talk to them, and my statement changes from year to year, but the one thing that remains the same is this. I want Richmond, Virginia, and the Richmond Flying Squirrels to be the best, most fun, your favorite place that you ever played and your favorite team you ever played for this side of the big leagues. Yeah. Of course, if you get to the big leagues, you're gonna like that better, but in the minor leagues, we want our region and our team to be your best experience, and it's been the case. I mean, Brandon Crawford's wife sat next to my daughter last year in Pittsburgh at the playoff game, and when Sammy said, "My dad's Parney," she said, "Oh my goodness, we love Richmond so much." So that's a lasting effect, and the more and more guys we get there, Jay, it becomes even more important for us to do that.
One of those guys that got there this year was Kelby Tomlinson. He had something to say about the Golden Tee arcade game you have outside your front office, right? I think you owe him for getting a hole-in-one. What's going on there? You think you give the players a little reward over the course of the season?
I just haven't had time to tell you to print it up for me because he wrote his name. He had 2 hole-in-ones. Kelby's an unbelievable story, and for everybody out there watching youth league baseball players, little league players, Kelby Thomas is a guy who everybody said he could never make it to the big leagues. You can't do it. You can't do it. Well, guess who's wearing number 37 for the San Francisco Giants right now? Kelby Thomas. And so we're really proud of him. Josh Osich was sent home last year during the playoffs because he was ineffective and injured. He's wearing number 61 for San Francisco. And the Golden Tee, by the way, both of those guys I just mentioned have hole-in-ones on the Golden Tee, so maybe that's the difference.
All right, so you're in your 26th season as an operator of a minor league franchise. We're coming to the end of 2015.
I started when I was 7 years old, by the way, just so everybody knows.
How do you deem a year successful from your angle?
That answer takes a lot longer than the time that we have. I mean, it's a whole myriad of things because you got to think about the players and how they did and how they performed on and off the field. And I think we've been very successful off the field as well as on the field this year. Think about you guys. I mean, you, not because you're sitting here, but you've done an amazing job this year of all the different things we've asked you to do, and the other employees who I love very much as well as you. I think about them and how they've done. You think about the fan base and what has the fan base done? Well, we were first in overall attendance again for the 6th consecutive year of being either first in overall or average. So there's a whole myriad of things to think about. And then there's just the fun factor. Did we have fun this year? You know, that's the name of the game, is to have fun while you get better every single day. And I think our front office did the same, and I think our fans did the same, and I think our players did the same.
Now, I know you, end of the season, you're going to tear down the schedule, put up 2016, and push.
You mean like right after the last half?
Yeah, indeed, yeah. Seriously, folks, do you ever tire? Do you ever slow down?
Well, I do, but you know, I have a responsibility to the owners. I have a responsibility to you, my fellow employees. I have a responsibility to our fans to always be thinking, to always try to get better. And listen, the umpire says play ball. He doesn't say work ball, right? And I just love what I do. It's very easy to be around people that we're around every day and love what you do, and our fans are so appreciative, and it's just a wonderful thing. So it's not hard to be up every day and enjoy what you do.
I think you said in an interview earlier this season that one of the things people don't recognize is that you're at the office pretty much every day of the season, even every day of the year, even when the season's over. That's going to continue into October for the Flying Squirrels. So there's a big event coming up, the RVA Field of Dream Fest. Can you quickly tell us how that became about to work with two organizations, RIR and Barton Mallow?
Well, no, Jay, I can't do anything quickly. Everybody knows that, especially talking. But Barton Mallow came to us to the table. Dennis Bickmeyer, of course, and his staff are great friends of ours. And it just makes sense. You got RIR Cares, Flying Squirrels Charities, and then Barton Mallow Charities and their foundation. And we're doing something that we both love, music and craft beers at the ballpark at the Diamond. So it'll be a very unique evening on October 2nd.
And finally, the Squirrels renovating 12 youth baseball facilities, along with Chuck Domino, the CEM, the Chief Executive Manager. This is a project that is now underway, and dugouts are going to be had for these youth baseball fields that haven't had such facilities before.
Well, one of our main goals is to make sure that we're bringing baseball back into the inner city, and the inner city kids are able to play. We do that with our M&T Bank glove drive, and we're also doing it by renovating baseball dugouts. And some of these fields had no dugouts, period. Right. So we're trying to make baseball in the inner city cool again, and I think that people are going to tangibly be able to see it this offseason.
We were just speculating Flying Squirrels MVP in 2015. Who do you have?
I think you're certainly a contestant for that.
Thanks.
Rando Marino, I didn't hear what you guys were talking about, but Rando Marino, I think, really sparked the club during that 15-game losing streak. A couple of the other guys, I mean, Kelby Tomlinson should get some votes. He wasn't here. And guys like Josh Osich, Pitcher of the Year, stuff like that. I haven't thought about that much. But
I put you on the spot.
But those are the names, and Delfino every day. So.
All right, thanks for being here, Park.
Thank you.
All right, more to come here on Flying Squirrels Insider. It's been a topsy-turvy season for the Flying Squirrels on the field, and the same could be said for our personnel here on the set of FSI. As Wes mentioned earlier, even if Richmond does not manage to make it into the postseason in 2015, the campaign will still be considered a success. Highlights being more and more Squirrels players contributing at the big league level, the franchise once again leading the Eastern League in overall attendance, and our main man Nutsy has once again set a record for community appearances in a single season. Still, all the good times and pats on the back are not worth anything without the community that continues to support this franchise. a community that I moved into 3 years ago and am very proud to now call home. The moniker RVA has become so much more than shorthand for Richmond, Virginia. It reflects a caring, thriving environment that fosters diversity and support for one another. The Flying Squirrels, in their own small way, contribute to what the RVA means. With that said, I'd like to extend a thank you from everyone within the Squirrels organization for helping us be the best that we can be. A big thanks to the entire FSI crew here, for Bryant Dameron and Craig Keaton producing all the hard work you see each week. Without them, this would not be possible. And finally, thank you for watching. Until next season, I'm Jay Burnham saying so long for now.
Production funding for Flying Squirrels Insider is made possible in part by
The smell of natural gas escaping is a pungent odor like rotten eggs, a bad smell for a really good reason, your safety. If you ever smell the strong rotten egg odor of natural gas, leave the area, go where the smell is no longer present, and call 911.
and James Limousine, driven to serve Richmond for 22 years. JamesLimousine.com, 804-273-1540.